The security token market team that Herwig and Kyle, the CEO of Security Token Market, built, is a resource for the industry to help them understand the trends, the teams, the tactics, the approaches, and to share this with folks on like beating a drum. And so if you don't follow Security Token Market, I will let you look down at your phone right now, and I will let you use the Twitter and the LinkedIn and go to their site. And you need to learn about Security Token Market so you can understand what's happening in this industry and see the whole picture, not just what you see, not just what you read on Twitter, et cetera. So I'd like to welcome up to the stage Security Token Market CEO Kyle Sonlin, a friend and a partner and a guy who is not afraid to call the shots as he sees them. Brutal, savage beast, okay? From Miami, Florida. Come on up stage, Sean, come on.
Woo! How we doing? We're talking security tokens, right? We're talking tokenization technology. We're using a lot of jargon, a lot of crazy words here. Everyone has their own expertise on whatever assets, whatever industries, financial services that you've been working in. But it's been my pleasure, along with my team, to spend all of our time focused on the technology. What's going on here? What are the real benefits of tokenization and blockchain technology that everyone's talking about? Where is this hype? Where does it actually create value in the capital markets? And so fortunately, I'm going to be able to share some of that knowledge with all of you today. But I wanted to just take a first moment to talk a little bit about Security Token Market. So Dave did a fantastic job introducing the platform. But essentially, we launched Security Token Market back in 2018. Back then, crypto was in its winter period. It was one of the toughest times to start a blockchain company. I was laughed out of many buildings around the world trying to talk about security tokens, real world assets being brought on chain, because at that time, nobody had any time for it. But Security Token Market, the goal here was that we were bringing real assets to market. We were creating exciting investment opportunities, and there was more information and diligence that you could do on your local crypto than there were on these real legitimate deals. Whether these were equities, whether these were fund interests, whether it was real estate properties or something totally new, there wasn't any place to actually get any information to figure out what was actually happening here and why anybody should care. We all have our own jargon, as I mentioned, but our goal with Security Token Market was to spread the gospel of security tokens, really to make security tokens a little bit sexy, because without that, nobody's going to pay attention. So Security Token Market tries to do that in a few different ways. We're the cultural epicenter of the industry, and we did that first and foremost by building industry reputation. Consistency builds trust. And that's what we have done every day since we launched October 11, 2018, was track every price of every live trading token, which back in the day was only 4, 5, 6, maybe. A couple different platforms, some of which are here today. But now we've scaled 3 years later to over 170 different security tokens and tokenized stocks that are trading around the world. This is not just a US thing, this is not an international thing, this is everyone around the world, 170 different tokenized assets. $1.2 billion in market cap was our high a couple weeks ago, now it's about 1.1 billion. And dozens of millions of trading volume a month. Many of you may not know that. This might still sound like it's around the corner, as Dave mentioned, but it is here right now. People are accomplishing this. Not just in the US, but internationally as well. We get 20, 30,000 users a month on our platform, and 75% of them are not here in the United States. Despite the fact that we follow a lot of the traditional US securities laws, everyone around the world is paying attention. How can we create an investment opportunity that everyone can participate in? How do we democratize capital markets in a way that's never been seen before? And that's the power of tokenization. So Security Token Market has been tracking this data since the beginning. We've watched companies come up, we've watched companies go down, but more importantly, we've seen innovation thrive. And not only do we track this data, which is incredibly important to provide price transparency, to provide research, to provide legitimacy, to provide due diligence for investors trying to get involved, but as I said, we want to spread the gospel. We want to show the love. We need to drive adoption somehow, and so we create all kinds of media content to get people excited, because the reality is, for the average investor, whether they are retail non-accredited or retail accredited, the average person, which drives our capital markets as we see today, so what? Great, you've got technology, great, you've got a real estate property, whatever. They don't really understand it like that. That's not how it penetrates the traditional lexicon. So Security Token Market, my co-host and business partner, Hurley Konings, out there in the back, we launched the Security Token Show. The goal here was to cover all of the industry news, both from issuers that were bringing cool products to market, as well as banks getting involved, which 40 of them publicly out of the top 100 are involved, by the way. Potentially many more that maybe are trying to keep it secret, but they're getting involved in a big way, whether it's investing, whether it's optimizing their own infrastructure. So don't sleep on that. But we also have a fantastic team that's also creating wonderful content. We've got Jonah Schulman here, who's been running our social media for years, driving millions of impressions to people around the world, helping them understand how we can create blockchain solutions that are real. This is not just something fabricated out of thin air. These are real assets, real investments, both things you may be familiar with, as well as new opportunities that would not be afforded to your average investor, or really to anyone at all in the traditional markets. So let's just take a second and think about, what is a security token? Really put briefly, a security token is a real world asset. We're taking a real investment contract and we're tying a security token. We're taking tokenization and applying a technological wrapper to that asset. What that allows us to do is essentially standardize the vehicle that's used for investment, for trading, and for the like, no matter what the underlying asset is, whether it's an equity, whether it's real estate, whether it's debt. As long as we have this tokenization wrapper, any one of those assets could be handled and managed in the same wallet from an investor, but also through the same platform from a tech perspective, also from the same exchange. Could also send it internationally because it's following the same rules and regulations for those different jurisdictions. And that tech wrapper is incredibly important in order to standardize, but more importantly, to automate these processes. The less standardized we make these things, the harder it is to automate. And the harder it is to automate, the more you need middlemen, the more you need fees, the more you need all these extra hands that slow everything down. So when we're talking about the benefits of tokenization, that's where we'll start. Traditional capital markets infrastructure can be improved. That's step one. You've got cost savings and efficiencies, as I mentioned, right? Mike Cagney from Figure started multiple unicorn companies, pegged it at around 3 to 5% in savings just in settlement alone, just in that process of confirming that a sale has happened. That's ridiculous. That's a very easy process. We should be able to know immediately if I sell it, it was sold. How much harder should it be than that? That's potentially 5%. We're talking trillions of dollars of transactions a year. It's a lot of money. You also have the efficiencies, right? It's not just cost. We're talking T0. We're talking zero settlement almost instantaneously. Right now, you look at the public markets, we all saw what happened to the GameStop crisis, AMC. These are companies that none of us probably actually engage with, and yet their stocks were up thousands of %. Why? Because of naked shorting. Because the inefficiencies in our settlement system have allowed clearinghouses, liquidity providers, and financial service institutions to take advantage of the float of these assets. You've got 3 days for that thing to settle, so they essentially get your stock for 3 days to do whatever the hell they want with it. And that's a very inefficient process. And you're paying for that. We are paying for that. Not them. They're capitalizing on it. That's what they're using to subsidize their business processes. So we have these opportunities to improve the capital markets, not to mention also 24/7 trading, right? This is something that in today's day and age we should have. After markets hours trading already happens, but again, it's only to financial services and institutions. You and I can't do that, but they can. It happens, Yahoo Finance to see how it's still trading, despite the fact that I can't. So these are very inefficient processes that have to happen. But more important than that, we can talk about tokenization and what upgrades that can bring to the capital markets. First off, which is really the most exciting part, I think, about this whole thing, is the flexibility in structuring of the asset. It's very difficult to have your asset look any different than any other one if you're going to go to the traditional public markets. You're trying to list on NASDAQ, you probably have to make it look exactly like a stock that they have, which doesn't really work for a lot of issuers. You have opportunities to create flexible investment structures, which is incredibly relevant for assets like real estate, which don't quite work the same way. Maybe you've got companies that want to issue revenue share, profit sharing agreements. You want to tokenize shipping contracts, accounts receivables. You want to tokenize a piece of art. What if I wanted to own a share of a Mona Lisa? Buy that. How is that going to work? So creating these flexible structures of investment is something that's very novel, very able to occur. We also have this global interoperability concept. Anyone around the world can invest, anyone around the world can trade, and it's the same asset. We're setting the standard for capital markets, and creating this global opportunity to democratize finance, democratize investing, instead of having to wait until post-IPO. Which again, we're only the ones that lose in that scenario. You look at the SPAC cycle, the whole reason for that is because all these companies are liquid. So they wanted to just dump them onto the secondary markets instead of creating a tokenization option where you could create that secondary market much, much earlier and create a much healthier market for those underlying assets. We have cross-listing on exchanges. This creates a much more efficient capital market. You see with Bitcoin, Bitcoin's arbitrage drives significant liquidity in that asset because of the fact that it's listed on many places, because there's this opportunity for anybody to create liquidity for an asset. We can all share in those opportunities. You're a real estate expert, you should be able to provide liquidity for your real estate properties. That's going to make your investors happy, it's going to make you happy because you're going to take a little piece of the float. You don't have to rely on someone else to do it. Tokenization empowers this, empowers issuers, platforms, shareholders, everyone around the world. We also have secondary markets for illiquid assets. This kind of goes unsaid. I don't need to dig into that too much, aside from the fact that some debt products are still traded with paper shares. Or how about crowdfunding? This novel concept, super innovative. Now finally retail can get involved, and oh, guess what? They get paper shares. Realistically, most retail investors don't want to just own paper. They don't want to be illiquid for 7 years. They want to be able to trade. That's why they like crypto. That's why they like the public markets. Creating those secondary markets for liquid assets, whether it's fully liquid or not, it's irrelevant. The opportunity to be able to buy and sell these things on the secondary market empowers liquidity and makes a much more competitive capital market. That's what gets me passionate. Finally, there are some of these very novel concepts that can be created as well, thanks to crypto and blockchain. We spend a lot of time talking about how the ICO era and crypto is BS and all the bad things that it brought. It gets a lot of negative attention from Gary Gensler and the SEC. But there were some really significant benefits that come from that as well. We're talking about all of the efficiencies of settlement from tokenization, right? Tokenization is literally the same thing as crypto, except we're tying a legal asset to it instead of just creating funny money. But on top of that, we've got post-issuance services. You now know who your shareholders are. You know every single one. They can now vote. They can now engage with your company in a way that is not possible in the public markets. They don't have to be a board member, but you can give them early access to things. You can let them be engaged with the community. You tie yourself in a much more meaningful way to those that are investing in your company. Those are super customers. If they're invested, if they're engaged, they are going to want to continue to follow you. We know. And staking and collateralization is another huge novel concept. This is maybe a couple of years ahead of time. Not quite ready yet. There's probably some legal stuff that's got to be worked out from a compliance perspective. But the idea that you could own shares and get a 70% loan to value on that collateral that you own, get cash right now, and then be able to invest that in things that you need is an incredible concept. Right now, cash advances are 20-25% interest. That's ridiculous. In the crypto space, you're getting it at a fraction of the cost. This is something that could absolutely be leveraged with real-world assets that you would never be afforded this opportunity unless you were in a 10 million plus Morgan Stanley account. So what's our role in the process? Security token market. We love the industry. We want to meet with you, the innovators, the ones bringing awesome assets to market, the ones that are forward-thinking and innovative and excited and motivated. We want you to share your story with us. We create media content. I'm going to be right out there for interviews. We're doing cool stuff. We want to chat. But more importantly, just to build this industry. We need to build this dialogue. There is so much opportunity to connect with other financial players, building a conference like Dave has done so that we can collaborate with each other, so that we can connect with each other, so that we can network, share our experience, and build this together is the only way that this actually happens. And this is enabled by the technology, the very technology that we're talking about today. We have a strong audience. They're passionate about security tokens. They're passionate about all this crazy stuff. So let's share that together. Let's bring new opportunities, new exciting innovations. Let's share our thoughts and experiences. We also have data. We want to bring our audience, we want to bring legitimacy to the assets and the platforms that you're building. We want to connect with your broker platforms. We want to connect with your marketplaces, connect with your exchanges so that we can have this platform to be able to demonstrate this information in a trusted way through the reputation that we've built in the industry, and we want to share that with you. We want to work together with you. We also have a consulting side of our company, Security Token Advisors, which is a leading consulting company in the space. We've actually worked with security token issuers. There's not that many people that can say that. We've helped issuers come to market and actually list their security tokens onto secondary markets that are real-world assets. We've helped pioneer this industry alongside many of our great partners, and we want to share that expertise with you. So you can find me outside, find any of my amazing team. We've got Eve and John here, we've got Jonah here, Herwig, Nick's on cameras, Mike Lingle is around here somewhere. So we're here to help. We want to work together. Thank you so much for your time, Dave. Amazing conference.